hear it. It's working? Thank you. Those of you in the room, I hope you're here for the Karuta Open Source Portfolio State of the Project. Is this correct? Yes. All right. Thank you for coming to this session. Two of us from the project are here. Is Shoji-san here? It's hard to see in the audience. I am Janice Smith from 3 Canoes LLC, and my colleague Jacques Renaud from HEC Montréal will join the podium at the proper time. The point of this session is to give you an idea of how the Karuta project has progressed, where we're at in terms of our development, and at the end we'll share with you some of our current challenges in becoming a truly open source community project. Karuta is a next generation open source portfolio. It was created out of the need to replace the open source portfolio tools in Sakai, which, as you may know, have been deprecated in Sakai 11. Karuta provides dramatic flexibility in designing portfolios. These portfolios can be for learning, for assessment, for reporting, or for showcasing. A strength of Karuta is that we can do all of these well. Some platforms do some of them well and others not as well. But Karuta aims to give you the whole possibility for portfolios. Karuta can be LTI integrated with any LMS that permits LTI integration, and we are working on and will demonstrate at the community BOF, Birds of a Feather, the next hour, our migration path from OSP. Karuta 1.1 was released on Friday of last week, and it is now available for piloting and for production. What are the key features of Karuta? Our highest claim to fame is that we're highly customizable, no coding required. Any designer, any functional person who's willing to learn a little bit of technical expertise can design portfolios using Karuta. As I mentioned, we're LTI-enabled with LTI-1 and LTI-2. Karuta is multilingual. It started out as bilingual French-English, and it has continued. It is currently being used in Japanese, and we have plans for other languages. So you can turn on the double languages to toggle back and forth, or single languages. Karuta has responsive design for use on mobile devices. As I mentioned, we're working on OSP import to allow migration of data from many years of portfolio use in Sakai. Karuta has dashboards for assessment and for reporting. It uses jQuery, JavaScript in the front end, and Java, MySQL, or Oracle on the back end. Karuta is uniquely qualified for designing and integrating portfolios of all types. At the student level, students can document and reflect on their learning, self-assess their learning, create resumes, CVs, or showcase their learning. Instructors can assess that learning with rating dashboards or produce their own portfolios in the form of teaching portfolios. Institutions can collect the data from instructors and students to create accreditation reports. And a few more details in the overview of Karuta. We're projecting a new release of Karuta 1.2 in October. In the meantime, we'll continue with our current deployments, and we're looking for new pilots. We want to partner to the advantage of the partnering institution and us with partners in Canada and the US in the next year. We're also looking to partner with an institution that wants to get off OSP and wants to move their data. We'll be adding some features to Karuta, a feature for sharing portfolios via public URLs, and a feature to improve the request feedback functionality. We're in the midst of the Apereo incubation process. It's been a grand journey for the last year. We have a little bit left to do, and we're going to share our challenges with you in a moment. And we're rebuilding the portfolio community within Sakai and Apereo in the process. I'm going to ask Jacques to come up and tell you a little bit about the structure, architecture, functionality of Karuta, and give a few use cases.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Janice mentioned, Karuta is a very flexible tool because we need to be flexible because portfolios are so diverse. The joke is that when you have people using portfolio, they first tell each other that they're not using portfolios because, they have to exchange ideas about what is a portfolio. Eventually, they agree that they're all doing portfolios. So portfolio is a very tricky thing. And I will try to give you a couple examples, but let me first tell you about how we proceed in Karuta, so you'll appreciate better. The different use case I will show. So this is what a sort of example of a portfolio built around like the AACU rubrics. And the page you're seeing now, it's a page where students are sort of expected to provide evidence on critical thinking. So the workflow here is that student will download files or whatever evidence related to critical thinking, and they will self-assess themselves. So you'll see there's a self-assessment section under dimension because, for those of you who know the rubrics, or for those of you who don't know the rubrics, is that for critical thinking, there are 5 dimensions where you could sort of assess the performance or the progress of the students. And the first dimension and explanation of issues. So you have to sort of be able to sort of correctly explain what's going on. And we'll ask the student here to self-assess with respect to a rubric. So there are descriptors. So the student will click on the pencil and choose what he thinks describe best his or her performance. He can put some comments, and then there will be an evaluation by an instructor or someone in charge of the follow-up. So this is an example. This is a web page. There's a menu on the left-hand side where you have where the students can navigate. So let me talk about this left-hand side that just appeared, about how we see that kind of page, how we see portfolios in Karuta. For us, a portfolio is like a tree, a structure. And there is some hierarchy in this structure. And this is what the colors are supposed to convey. For example, the blue node, all these squares are nodes. They're sort of a beginning of a branch, or, so they're nodes. The blue node is obviously the root, so this is the portfolio in our sense. The white square are the what we call structure. So structure are like big chapters. So they organize the portfolio in large sections. A unit for us is a page. I'll come back to that very soon. Unit structure are sort of part of a page, a web page. And finally, context and resources are, resources are any information like files, evaluation, comments, any kind of information that is related to what the portfolio is about. So for us, a portfolio is a structure. So let me go through the right-hand side now with this new vocabulary. So the ACU portfolio is the root. Learning outcomes, for example, there are many learning outcomes in this portfolio. Well, there are 2 there, but there are many more in the real portfolio. So this is a structure. Critical thinking is a unit, and so it's a page. This is really important. And provide evidence and dimension are section of the page, so we call unit structure. And all the text, like the definition, the file, the evaluations, are what we call resource with an associated context. So this is really the key to the flexibility of Karuta. This is really powerful because, I mean, you can imagine that we can move around. I mean, you'll see later that we can sort of put tags to each of these nodes so we can recognize them, we can move them, copy them, we copy small part, larger part. So this is what really brings this flexibility that is really needed if you want to have a tool that is flexible and can answer all the needs. As I said, I mean, there are many actions we can do on these nodes, on the tree structure. We can copy small bits, large bits, the whole thing. We can proxy. Proxy is like it's a sort of URL where instead of having the real tree there, you can post a link to another tree in another portfolio. So this gives you lots of flexibility. Read values, of course, we can read any information in all these trees because we know where the information is. We can tell the system to go and look for this kind of information at this node because we tag this node. Actually, this is what I'm talking about, is that all these nodes and leaves, actually leaves are the resources at the end. All these nodes, the small squares, we can put all sorts of information on these. There's like Lego blocks that you can move around and use. Change color. For example, we can put semantic tags in all these nodes. So it's very helpful to organize things, to retrieve information. We can put actions on these nodes. We can tell who can read this node. Is the student can read that? Is the instructor can do that? What about an outside evaluator? Can he read that? Can he delete things? Can he edit things? So you have like complete flexibility on all these small elements. Display also. There's lots of control on exactly how these nodes could look like, how you want to change color, you want to change font, you want to change things. So this again is really very powerful. Architecture. So nothing very special here. This is really a sort of pretty standard now type of application. There are like, we use MySQL or Oracle. We have a special file server for file. And then we have a Java backend. So this is the Karuta backend in Java. So far so good. The front end is jQuery, HTML, JavaScript. So it uses all the usual open source tools that most of the developers know. So this is not a very complex application. It's kind of easy to work with. The last one about the Karuta in 5 slide is really the way we see portfolios. For us, I mean, what's important in the portfolio is really the portfolio process. Is empowering designer. Designer are your teaching and learning specialists, the people that are working with faculty, and they can interact. And with the tool, they can sort of build the portfolio from scratch or using templates that we can provide. And then, for example, build a prototype, present the prototype, for example, to a group of faculty to have their feedback. And actually, that's interesting because in the workshop yesterday, we were presenting templates, and we already had suggestions, and we made changes on the fly because Karuta is really flexible and easy to use. So if you know how to change things, you can almost make changes on the fly, so people will see what's going on and will see what they can do about that. And eventually, you can go on and you can move on into production. So I think this is the key thing about if you want to succeed in your portfolio project is really make sure that you sort of fulfill the needs. There are many products around. They're interesting, but our originality is really empowering the designer to make changes, to design the portfolio that will really suit your needs, the needs of your institution. Just a couple examples about what it looks like. I mean, for example, this is a project we did with the School of Education in the University of Montreal. So they were having students doing internship in classes in elementary schools, and the internship was lasting like for 4 months. So they were really looking for something where the students could self-evaluate themselves during the process of the internship. Not only doing a portfolio at the end where you put all you did your stuff and your lessons and everything. So they wanted something much more like gradual, where so the student in this case were asked to self-assess themselves at the beginning, at the middle of the internship, at the end. And you see the colors. We try to be visual. So red, I guess, is when you start, it's not so good. Yellow, you're improving. And eventually green means that you got the standard. So on the left-hand side, we kept it very generic, but in their case, they had 12 competences, many components, like almost 50 components. So, I mean, we could accommodate this kind of environment quite easily, and the students were also having special tools like this dashboard that actually can be replicated by a designer using the report tool in Karuta. There's nothing fancy here. You don't need a developer. You don't need to spend money to get this thing working. So as you see, I've done it only for the first competence. The students can really see, and actually the instructor or the supervisor can really see what's happening here, because they see, and if the student is moving forward, if he's doing better, what are their area of strength, the area of weaknesses. So this is quite interesting. Another project here where the user IE is completely different here. Instead of having pencil to, for instance, instead of clicking on pencil to choose your colors, I mean, we were asked to have like drop-down menus where students can assess themselves quickly. So this is what you show. This is a master in electronic commerce, pretty generic. There are learning goals and divided in learning objectives. Again, the students were asked to self-assess themselves, and eventually the evaluator or the supervisor was going to do a final evaluation. So this is a different, again, it's different from the one you've seen before. There are no predefined sort of imposed type of format that it's hard to sort of change. Everything is really, really flexible. You can design what you think is best for you. And we have like, this is a report again. It's slightly different one because the learning goals are more explicit, but it sort of provides a summary of the information. Actually, I have another version of this report which has all these color, that you've seen before. So this is we're changing. The report tool is changing every day, so we're moving forward. So, but the idea is again being able to sort of take the information, part of the portfolio, it create this dashboard. I think this is really unique, not in the sense that you cannot get dashboard in other portfolio types. I'm sure that they all do some kind of dashboard, but this one is the dashboard you want with the information you care about. And you can have actually many types of dashboard. You're not limited to this one. You can have a dashboard for student. You can have a dashboard for instructor. You can have also a dashboard for class, for department. So it's because of the tagging that I mentioned before, you can retrieve the information and display it in this page. Actually, you can create CSV file with these tables, so you can work on them. Eventually, we're quite interested by all this learning analytic movement. I think we can contribute quite a lot to this because we can provide with a portfolio very relevant information, because it's sometimes something that comes from student self-assessment. So I think it could be really powerful. Another type of portfolio that we do is, portfolio in our case can be placeholder for information. So I don't know if you know about these ACU rubrics. Like there are 12 of them. They have lots of information. So instead of having these PDF that are not so easy to manipulate, so we've started to put them in a sort of a Karuta format. So it's easy to retrieve this information. I'm not going to show it, but we have put semantic tags in this page so we can retrieve this information for evaluation in the portfolio, in other portfolio. So that's kind of interesting. This is the UI from one of our partners in Grenoble. So they're using Karuta. This is Karuta. It doesn't look like the vanilla one that I showed you. It's they really like Karuta to organize all the information, but that's in portfolio in their case what's so key to their mission. So they invested some money to sort of put a special UI on top of Karuta, which is possible and not very hard to do, but you have to design what you want to have. So it's exactly Karuta, but a different. It's a different look, and so this presents in French. I mean, what they're trying to do, and this is like a page. Actually, it's a couple pages of Karuta that are sort of presented in a more compact way in this format. So I hope I convince you that, Karuta is really flexible, powerful, and can give lots of power in the hands of your designer, and you can eventually end up having like very sophisticated portfolio or very simple pages. I'm planning to use it as a faculty instructor for my course because I want my student to sort of do all sorts of things, but in a sort of more efficient and more straightforward way. So I think that'd be really, I'm really looking forward to do that. So I pass the mic to Janice for the last part. Thank you.
I mentioned that we have learned how to migrate data from OSP to Karuta. I won't belabor this, but basically we're constructing something in Karuta that looks like OSP, and then we're exporting OSP content to put it in Karuta for reuse. And we're doing this through form fields, through matrix cells, through attachments that have been copied from Sakai resources or that users have uploaded directly from their desktop. We understand that for OSP users, it's important for students to be able to take their data with them. So we're making an effort to have this happen. Now, I don't want to belabor this either, but we have very much enjoyed being part of the incubation process in Apereo. We've had 3 excellent mentors. One of our mentors is here, Ian Dolphin, in the back row. And they have guided us through a process of becoming an authentic open source project, becoming so legally in terms of our community, our governance, our voting, conflict resolution, releasing, and various other aspects. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of a report card on how we're doing. Legally, we have gotten through the licensing issues, the contributor agreements, and we're working on trademarking. Our community is a challenge. We're going to have a community meeting in the next hour. The problem is that there are many previous users of OSP, many people who've gone on to use other platforms, several Karuta users, and then a lot of people who are thinking about what should I do next. The coherence of the community is centered around the word portfolio, but we all have different ideas of what that means. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of reforming our Sakai Apereo portfolio community. We have a governance document that's been approved. We vote by consensus within the project, and that's working great for now. We have a conflict resolution document that's been approved. We've released 2 versions of Karuta since we began incubation. We've done this through GitHub. We've blanketed the community with release announcements, but we need more documentation. It's clear that we need to be more user-friendly to new users of Karuta and continuing users who are going to upgrade. We've reached out to a number of projects to align ourselves with them. LTI-1 and LTI-2, we're meeting with Chuck Severance on Thursday to continue our collaboration with him. We have a plan to be allowed to integrate OAE content into Karuta, and it's close to fruition. We're discussing with Learning Analytics about how to collaborate to provide data that would be useful for a learning analytic project. And in Grenoble, France, there's success using the ELG social networking software in integration with Karuta. They're very enthusiastic about their progress with that. Infrastructure. We're using GitHub, but we're not transparent enough yet. We need to add an issue tracking way in GitHub. We need to do more PR, more transparency with our future plans and directions and objectives. We have a brand new project website that we're very proud of, but keeping it up will be interesting. And now it's time to talk about what are our challenges. Recently, one of our team members posed us 3 challenges. The first one has to do with transparency. You can imagine the folks at HEC Montréal have been working on this software for a number of years, and their system works great. It's also been happening in French as opposed to English. So the push to move from a relatively private, really functional closed circle to a more open, more diverse, more participatory community is what we all want to do, but establishing how to do that is challenging. And a part of that is releasing more information about Karuta, making feature requests possible, being transparent about the priority and timeline of the development of Karuta. Thus far, our progress has been to advertise the need for contributors, but we think perhaps the bar is a little bit too high for contributing. I was interested today to see how the learning analytics people are giving a number of different levels of contribution as a possibility, so we could structure it. They have going from buy us a beer to host an event to publicize the requirements. Anyway, I think we need to try something like that to get more participants. Our release management is going well, but it needs, again, to be more transparent. And to do all of this, we need to use GitHub, but we're still novices in using it. Second mission challenge is to really identify what problem Karuta is solving, what new approach or philosophy is core to its design, what are its strengths and limitations, and who should be interested in it and why. I think Jacques has rightly identified the core user of Karuta is the instructional designer. It's really a dream for an instructional designer. But instructional designers often do not have the ear of the decision makers who are going to decide on software based on some other criteria, which may not be as convenient for the instructional designer. If the instructional designer knows the students well and has a free hand, then the other person that's benefited by Karuta would be the student, because this can be a true learning environment as opposed to a mechanism for an institution to gather data about students. It can also gather good data about students, but the most effective way to gather good data is to have an effective learning process. So we're figuring out who we are and who we're targeting and why we're doing this. And I think it'll help us do better in distributing the software to more users. Our third challenge is the flexibility of Karuta. Like OSP, it's so flexible that it can do anything, which means when you get Karuta, it doesn't do anything. It needs to be accompanied by templates for use in, Jacques has shown you some use cases which we can turn into templates. There are different communities who need portfolios, the education community, the medical communities, the engineering schools, the business schools. All of these would be different ways to purpose Karuta, but it takes knowing what those disciplines are looking for and then building out something that's generic enough that different schools would be interested in taking the template and customizing it for their own purposes. And then, of course, the question of how is that work going to get done and who's going to pay for it, the proverbial open source challenge. So our team includes 3 universities and 2 commercial partners, and we're figuring out how to finance this into the future and how to attract more people with more resources. We're looking for ideal use cases. We're willing to partner with other schools at a more economic rate for either new templates or migration of data. We're going to have more and more public-facing collateral, and we'll do more about documenting why Karuta is better than other tools for the things we're doing with it. We want to close by mentioning our corporate contributors and the institutions that are collaborating on Karuta development, and all of the individual contributors at many institutions. Thanks to all these people for helping us get this far. Most of them are still working with us, and we're really happy as a community. It's one of the most productive and congenial communities I've ever worked in. For more information, you can learn about us at our websites. You can try Karuta at a place that where you can use a test version of Karuta. You can download it from GitHub. You can follow us on Google+ or on Twitter, and you have some emails to contact us. We thank you for your attention, and we're open to any questions you might have. I can't quite see anyone, so any questions? Yes?
I'm trying to make sure this is the right question, because in some ways, so we have OSP in use at the University of Dayton. So my fear is that obviously that's going to be going away as we move to 11. So we need to figure out what the right thing to move to is.
Yes.
So I've been keeping my eye on Karuta to see if that's going to be the option. And I'm intrigued that there is potentially a migration path. In some ways, is it a tool? Is it something that is installed inside of Sakai, or is this an external tool that you can connect to from within Sakai?
Is that your question?
Sure.
Okay. So let's start there. Karuta is a standalone application, and it is LTI-enabled with LTI-1 and LTI-2 to become a part of Sakai, such that you can put it in a portfolio site and single sign-on to reach Karuta in the proper role within that site. So it displays as any other tool would, and the students will not be inconvenienced. The drawback is that it doesn't yet communicate with all the other Sakai tools. Now, of course, many Sakai tools do not communicate with each other, so this is nothing new. That's why we're working with the LTI people in Apereo to improve that. Some of it will depend on other people's work with LTI, and Karuta will need to wait until that work is done. But everyone is talking LTI, and we'll see how far we can get. You may remember that OSP was only partially engaged with Sakai. It didn't talk to all the tools either.
Sure. Well, in some ways, I wonder if being disconnected from Sakai frees it up to be a little bit more user-friendly.
Absolutely.
We got stuck in all the forums and all the other things that would take a lot of work.
Yes, Karuta is its own person, so to speak, and it can go where the community wants it to go. I saw another question.
Yeah, I had a question to follow up on that. So what
Say again, please. Let me come down and talk to you. No, not yet. There are a couple of issues regarding the assignment tool. First of all, which assignment tool? One or two? The one that will exist in Sakai 11. Is there a decision about which one will exist in Sakai 11? I'm not aware of everything going on in Sakai, but obviously that would be the right choice. Now, OSP linked to the original assignments tool, and then Indiana linked it to Sakai 2, but it didn't put it in the code, so it's a little complicated. But there is call for it. And then linking to the assignments tool would beg some other questions. In OSP, what it did was show you a window into assignment results, but you couldn't touch them. You could look at them. We also have a challenge with resources. Resources has its own security, and obviously if you're going to write a portfolio, you'll want to access files that you put into Sakai, and how to manage the security concerns through an LTI process, so that, for example, when you share a portfolio, the right files will be available to the viewers of the portfolio. Jacques, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe a quick thing. I'm at HEC Montréal. We're using Sakai, and I'm a great fan of assignment. But as I mentioned before, maybe it's the occasion to rethink what we. I mean, there was a way to do things previously, but maybe the challenge here is to sort of maybe rethink. And I'm going to explore ways to do assignment, to bring assignment right into Karuta, actually. And I think there are some advantages. Of course, there will be drawbacks because assignment has all sorts of features. But if we can make, we're working really on it. I mean, we're really close to making like Karuta talk to the gradebook, actually. So if you get the gradebook integration, maybe this is what you want. Maybe you want something else, or I don't know. But if we get the gradebook integration, maybe you can move forward and do something that will be different, but maybe will suit your needs. So this is why we need this conversation, to sort of talk to users and see where they want to move forward. But it's hard to change our state of mind, because we get so used to doing things this way. That we don't really, but I'm telling that because at HEC we have open syllabus too, and we really thought very hard about assignment and where we should put assignment, and so this is something that we've been thinking a lot in terms of. No, I can't hear you. Okay. We don't hear very much well. I'm sorry. You need the mic.
Yes.
Maybe you can. Yeah, I will get. I will get.
Your chart had Oracle and MySQL, or, right? Yeah.
Or, yeah. Not and.
Or MySQL. Yeah. Not both.
Correct. Either use. So those of you considering using Karuta, we're collecting use cases right now. We don't guarantee we'll meet every one of them, but we're looking for what do the potential users want. And the clearer you can be about your needs, the better. For example, if you wanted to connect to a certain tool, how and why and when. We've come to a place where we've done most of the requirements that we thought of. When we know there are many to come, but we need some specification from the community.
Maybe talk about just briefly about this Grenoble implementation. I didn't sort of push that very much, but maybe I should. It's really about competencies, because in France they sort of rewrote all their programs in terms of skills and competencies. So they're really building. I mean, this is not just a portfolio; it's a portfolio built on learning outcomes and what we should expect students to. So get get some information of this black box that is the learning, and try to make sense of what the students are doing. So this is an interest. This is a use case that is going to be really is having right now a big impact on our design. Is to sort of accommodate these projects that are becoming more and more pervasive around different schools.
Well, we thank you for your interest. Oh, there's a question. That is the purpose of us wanting to integrate with LTI-2 and produce web services that can allow the use of assignments, the use of resources, the use of all of these things that students have done elsewhere in the portfolio. One of the principles of portfolios is repurposing prior work. And so if we can't connect to these Sakai tools, that's a real shame, because repurposing previous work for use in a portfolio is crucial to the portfolio process. But as I mentioned, there are some obstacles having to do with the maturity of LTI-2 and the progress in working with resources and assignments in general. We're optimistic that within the year something will change, but we need some help from the LTI group. Does that answer your question?
More or less. Can you tell me, in terms of LTI, you always get LTI consumer and LTI provider. Karuta is supposed to be provider or consumer.
Jacques, is it both? Are we?
And if you are provider, right, then if assignment or activity was done in external, in its case, and provided has to be immediately with another provider. How are you going to solve this? Sure, but hackers was only about analytics events, right? My question is next. Like, I develop provider which integrated over LTI is, let's say, Sakai, right? I have results constituted quite specific. How we are going to integrate my tool and Karuta tool? There is no standard as far as I know. LTI doesn't, we both providers, you and me, for Sakai. And how can we solve? How Karuta will request other providers to get results from them? I see. So it's in plan, so it's not any implementations here.
There's a.
Now we don't have any implementations, it's just sketches and ideas.
There's an old Spanish saying, a Latin American saying, you make the road by walking it. We'll be walking the LTI road with Dr. Chuck Severance, who just came in the room. And a number of thank you, Chuck, good to see you. And there's a number of things that need to get worked out in LTI, in the standards involved in it, in LMS connections to tools outside of the LMS. We're inventing it as we go. Your input is valuable. Thank you for reminding us that it needs to be a two-way plan. And we need to go to our next session, so I'm going to close this one and thank you all for coming.